The singer of the Cranberries would have been 47 today. She drowned in the bathtub, which is very sad, but at least her music was clean. Was that too soon? Is it too soon to talk about that? Because it's a fact that, we only get one chance on this planet. And, sometimes it's sad. Things don't always work out like we want them to. And if you're in a 90s band and you go on hiatus for a while and your bandmates say, if we got the band back together, would it kill you? It's not, it's not easy to keep it alive. So we only get one chance, and we have to make the best of it. We have to make the best out of this life that we're given. And it's easy to get distracted and get down on things, and it takes some guts, man. It takes some guts to make it happen. It takes guts to keep going, to keep making music, and to not get discouraged. How do you end up not being a cliche? Is that possible? Especially if you're a musician, or if you're an artist, or if you're in that creative kind of world. Even if you're not, in that sort of quote unquote creative kind of world, how do you not get discouraged? Say you're not a musician, but you have a business and you just need to get it off the ground because you've been going at it for so long, 15 years maybe of ineffective, unfocused, hazy marketing. What's not working? Could it be you? What do you have to do? What do bands do? They keep playing. You keep paying your dues. And musicians are the only people in the world who will buy hundreds and hundreds of dollars of equipment, especially in rock music. I have a theory why rock is basically not happening anymore, and rap music is actually more economically viable than rock music, because rock musicians are the only people who will spend hundreds of dollars on gear, amplifiers and pedals and guitars and drums and bass and keyboards, hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and pack them into the back of like an old car that is worth like $300 and drive them to a gig that pays them in free beer. Rock musicians are the only people who will do that. And artists are the same way, but you devote time and energy into making a painting and buying the art supplies in the studio, and you don't know if anyone's ever going to buy your painting, but you don't care. You don't care because you're not thinking like that. You just want to create something and give it to the world. And that's the beauty of it. In fact, true entrepreneurs are the people who are the artists and are the musicians and of course the actual entrepreneurs that make money, because that's the only way you can keep going is if you do make money. But you have to think long term and be willing to front load all of your gut and your hard work and your sweat and your tears into your art, into your craft, into the gift that you're giving to the world. You have to be willing to do that for an indefinite amount of time. Okay? That's why there are so many people who haven't seen the return on their investment yet from the work that they do or from the art that they make. But the important thing is to not get distracted and get down and start looking at the negative. And if you have to stop drinking, then please stop drinking. If it is a problem for you, because it's too easy to like drown out your sorrows and and focus on the negative, and we get in this downward spiral emotionally of thinking, oh, it's not working, especially that we are in a very persistent reality, that a very persistent illusion that calls itself reality, this masquerading as reality, that seems very, it is very impermanent and temporal. But when you kind of get past that and think long-term, eternity, generational, what your kids and your grandkids, what you're giving to them, it changes the whole perspective, changes your whole paradigm. Okay, and you're willing to make the art and make the music and start the business and front load it now, and find a way to manage without seeing the returns, the immediate returns on your investment. We live in a world that is very, very fast-paced and is getting even more fast-paced and more exponential in terms of data, and the access to information is so exponential. Things are moving faster. We want instant gratification, and it seems like it just is going to continue to move faster and faster. We sometimes can be kind of controlled by how many likes we have, and we kind of start seeking that validation right away. But it wasn't always like that. Like, there was a time when you didn't know if your product or your music or your art was any good until months and weeks later. Maybe you would see a review in the local music review paper. After you play a gig, you might see a review maybe like a week or two later. That was the pre-internet days. Yes, I can remember before we had this rapid information and this internet thing that has completely changed our lives. And we're missing that sense of like being okay without instant gratification. We lose that sense of peace if we don't get this instant gratification, or if we feel like we want results right away, because we feel like that should be the norm now, that as soon as you post something, you can see if someone likes it or if it doesn't get anything, and you tend to tie your sense of self-worth to that. It's very dangerous. You have to be willing to delay your gratification and think long term. Not everyone can do that, and frankly, like, not everyone should do that. Maybe you're not cut out for it. That's why not everyone is a musician, and not everyone's an entrepreneur, not everyone's an artist, because it's not easy, because it's uncomfortable. You have to get really, really uncomfortable. You can be comfortable in your own skin, but get uncomfortable in your surroundings and be able to delay your gratification and stay positive in the face of negativity. Okay? And by the way, my theory on the reason why rap and hip-hop music and the way music is produced nowadays is actually kind of has usurped rock and roll in terms of like the charts and popularity, is because it's so efficient. You can make it on a laptop. It doesn't take that much skill and practice. and we're just used to that. And it's just cheaper to make because you don't have to lug your guitar and all your keyboards and your drums. You don't have to lug that to the gig. You can just bring a laptop. So it's much more efficient. Okay. But what I want to talk about in this episode of this is the new Fenden Digital Audio Enrichment 2.0. This is the next phase in the Fenden podcast, where I have abandoned all preconceived ideas, and I just want to give you the truth as I see it. Okay? And I know I've said truth is relative, and that's a very kind of vague, hazy statement, nebulous, because, then it's a very slippery slope. Like you could say, well, that's your truth and this is my truth, and there really is no absolute truth, which is absolute in and of itself, which can't be true. However, I do believe that your life is entirely up to you, and the way you perceive it to be, the observer, has everything to do with the circumstances and the outcome. And that's what this is about, the outcome, getting the outcome that you want and being flexible enough to enjoy the ride. Okay, so how do you do all of this? How do you do it? Well, I'm speaking to you as someone who does not have it all figured out, nor do I pretend to be. Currently am in this fantastic transition stage of my life where I practice what I preach and just put it all on the line, and I'm moving towards my goal and finding the success that comes naturally. That is my ultimate purpose, and you can find your ultimate purpose too, and live the life that you want. And you don't have to accept the old ways of the 9-to-5 job and the go to college and the old ideas that are from a time long ago where the system was set up to make you a nice little unquestioning little cog in the wheel of the big machine. So the schools would churn you out to be a good employee, and the industrial age is far behind. And now even new generations totally think differently and don't have the same hang-ups that previous generations did. Okay, and this is an amazing time to be alive. It's so incredible. Just the potential that we have. There's unlimited resources for most of us in the free world, and it's our responsibility to live our life to the fullest so that we can help others who don't have it as good as us. At least, I don't know about you, but that's important to me. And I do have a charity that I want to start talking about and getting known. It's for a school in Kenya that is in Busia, Kenya, that we're building a new educational state-of-the-art educational complex for them, and they barely have books. They share books. Their little schoolhouse burned down recently. I'll have to post something a little bit more succinct and definite that I can share with you guys. But until I do, I'm just getting it started, and I do believe that that's why we're here, is to uplift each other, uplift ourselves, and not get distracted by the petty things that might bring us down day to day, but recognize each other as the embodiment of the divine. You and I are all from the same spirit, and what I do to you and for you, I do to myself and for myself, and vice versa. And so that's why I want to share with you, as I learn things that I have found to be true, I want to share them with you. And the number one thing in order to achieve the best possible life that you can is to focus on strategy. I don't know if most people don't do this or not, but there are many people who don't think about the strategy of their life. They don't design where they work or they don't design how they live. They just kind of go with the flow, right? And if that works for you, then knock yourself out. But if you just go with the flow, you might as well be a bump on a log, because you're not doing anything. Strategy is different than is not the same as your everyday tasks or your goals, right? Strategy versus tactic is like a concept versus a theme. Okay? Now, what do I mean by that? Well, a strategy is your overall desired outcome, and your tactic is your methods, your groove that you carve, your points that you chart. Okay? And your tactics are going to be informed by your strategy. Okay, so your strategy is to become the best trumpet player in the world. Okay, your strategy will actually be not to be the best trumpet player in the world, but your strategy in life will be to make the best music, make an impact with the tools that you have, with the melodies that you can make. And your tactic will be to play that trumpet really well and to get really good lessons, find the best gigs, get with the best musicians, and practice. And then your outcome will be, I don't know, you'll be like the next Louis Armstrong, okay? Okay, so, or in other words, say your strategy for the success that you want is, say you want to build the tallest high rise. Okay, so I want to build the tallest high rise. My strategy is to find all the best high rise builders, learn from them, work with them, find the best ground I can build upon. Okay, and my tactics for doing that will be like different ways, like networking with architecture firms and getting to know the people who are in charge of like building, the builders, and then getting on committees and getting on boards that deal with that kind of stuff. Knowing real estate, but your ultimate strategy for your impact on the world is to be the best high-rise builder, right? Now, concept versus a theme is similar. Like conceptually, you want to represent two lovers and their time spent together. So your artwork is two clocks that are synchronized. Okay, that's your art. And the theme is time. And your theme is love. And your theme is relationships. Get it? So conceptually, you're doing something for the world that is a meta level thing. Okay? And it's easy to get distracted from that meta level thing by getting lost in the weeds of your theme and talking about different kind of variations on a theme when it's actually your concept that makes the bigger impact. Okay? And the benefit of thinking that way is because that is life thinking, like overall eternal life kind of mindset, right? Thinking long term, being willing to take a loss at first. When Jeff Bezos started Amazon, he was ready to take a huge loss at first because he plays the long game, and it pays off when you don't get distracted, and you don't get distracted by the petty little things like the day-to-day things. Not that cash flow isn't important, because it is, but it shouldn't be the be-all and end-all if you're thinking long-term, if you want to build something that lasts a long-term kind of lifespan. Does that make sense? And this kind of eternity kind of thinking is accessible because it is within you, right? And it's not taking the position of selfishness. Okay? In fact, it can be the opposite of selfishness, because you're willing to not have the instant gratification in order to have the longer term, more valuable desired outcome. Like on a personal level, I had a conversation with someone who was really criticizing me, looking at the way they perceive what was happening in my life, and their words were, "You don't have to struggle. There's you shouldn't be struggling." And to them, it looked, from their perspective, totally different than from how I see it, of course. But to them, the struggle was unnecessary, and it's too. How can I say this? It's a matter of not being able to delay gratification when it looks like someone is struggling needlessly, and you don't understand that the long-term objective is to set yourself up so that you have long-term success by intentionally sacrificing on luxuries right now. Luxuries like things that some people would deem as like secure things, like a 401k and vacation time. This person, when they said that to me, was seeing it as I was intentionally or like haphazardly, like not having it together, right? And that's fine. Like we are on a journey. We're on our own path, and we might not all be going to the same destination. And to look at where someone is on their path, and you don't know what their destination is, you might think that they're going the wrong way. And you can tell if they are, if they're, maybe if they're like drinking too much, or they have like some character flaws. If you can hold off on instant gratification for right now, you can have it all. When you're ready for it, you can have it all. And you see, what some people do is they reach a plateau and like they can't go any further because they've played it safe their whole life. So that they can only go to a certain level. There's a ceiling. For example, there's a ceiling when you work and when you're getting paid by the hour. There's only so many hours, and there's a certain limit on the income that you can make if that's the only way you're doing it, right? If that's your main thing, you can't scale that. So you might feel safe and secure getting paid hourly. You just have to be okay with not being able to go beyond that, right? Until you change your mindset. You might be asking me, like, how do you know, dude? How do you know? How can I believe what you're saying is true? Well, you know what? The fact is, you have to decide for yourself. I can't convince you. I can't prove any of this. But I think you know what I'm saying deep down. There's a place in your mind where you know what I'm talking about, right? It's not beyond your reach. It's not above you in the sky or deep in the ocean. You don't have to rely on someone else to go and get this knowledge for you. It's closer than that. It's very close. It's in your mouth. It's in your heart. You know, life and prosperity is up to you. And on the same rate, on the flip side, death and adversity is up to you. Which is it? Which one do you want? Are you going to be one of those people who would drive drunk, would drink too much, and then get behind the wheel and drive a car and say, well, you know what, since I didn't get in an accident, I'm still alive, I didn't kill anyone, then that was a good decision that I did that? Or you're a person who like goes out and starts doing drugs, or like does a bunch of coke or heroin and turns out okay, and you're like, oh, well, you know what, I guess since the outcome was all right, then I must be okay. You know, I must be living up to my potential. No, you're not living up to your potential just because the outcome is okay. And on the flip side, if you look at someone and you say like, hey, dude, why are you struggling? Like, why are you eating top ramen every day? You know, you must have done something. You must be doing something wrong because your outcome is not good in my eyes. Well, did you ever think that maybe that person just likes eating ramen because they just like the flavor of it? Or maybe they are actually like, they actually have a strategy to where they have learned some things and lived a little bit longer and made a decision to get rich, but know that like in between here, this neighborhood, and the wealthy neighborhood, you're going to have to go through a bad part of town to get from rich to poor. You're going to have to go through a bad part of town to get there, okay? And maybe you're doing that on purpose, but the other person just sees you, just walks by, and you're in the other, on the wrong side of town, but they don't see where you're going because all they see is where they're going, based off of their whatever framework that they're living on. And that's going to happen. That's fine, because I can also be really grateful for the criticism. And I think a person should be able to handle criticism well. Like, you know what? yes, I do deserve more. I should have more. I should have more money in my life. I should have a lot more freaking money. I should have done a lot bigger things in my life, but I've been thinking small. I've been going through life of just thinking too small, like thinking like that getting paid like $5,000 for a job is like, that's, you'll, if you're around people who you tell them, you know what, I'm doing this work and I charge $5,000 for it, and if they say, what, that's a lot of money, you're hanging out with the wrong person. And so, I mean, frankly, that's why I don't associate with this person anymore, because they think 5,000 is a lot of money. Because it's the middle class mind that you have to get away from the middle class mind. Okay? I don't care if you agree with me or not, but I'm telling you that if you're willing to hear what I'm saying right now, and if it resonates with you, then click like, click subscribe. I'm going to end this episode with that. You're listening to the Fenden Digital Audio Enrichment 2.0.